You're live on Twitch, hosting the most important charity stream of your life. You're battling a rare form of terminal cancer, and your community is rallying to help you fund your treatment. One of your viewers offers a sizable donation for your treatment if you show their new game on stream and play it. Fantastic. So you download it straight from the official Steam store. You double-click on the icon. In the fraction of a second it takes for the game to load, your entire crypto wallet is wiped clean. Every single donation, gone. No warning, just zeroed out live on stream. This isn't a hypothetical nightmare. This is a real attack orchestrated through a game called BlockBlasters, and it ignited an absolute firestorm across the internet.
This is a story of a heist without a getaway car, a modern Trojan horse painted to look like a harmless weekend download.
How a Florida college student conspired with an indie game developer to rob gamers for years until they picked the wrong dying influencer to rob. The public pressure got too hot, and the FBI discovered the one bad habit that led them right to Wilkins' front door.
There are three things the Fed love.
Wilkins and his developer used fraudulent developer accounts to launch coordinated attack campaigns directly on Valve's Steam game store and then promote those infected games on social media. Steam has strict reviews, so how did malware make it onto the store in the first place? They used the classic bait and switch. According to SteamDB logs and discussions from the Steam community, these games would start out released on Steam as completely clean, legitimate, even fun games. They gathered positive reviews and built trust.
5-star reviews don't need much when the digital supply chain gets hijacked. It's the ultimate Trojan horse. You think you're downloading a trusted indie hit, but you're actually installing Mal's custom delivery vehicle.
If you look at Steam community, their approach seems to be to take over control of Steam accounts from real game devs and transfer ownership of the game out of the developers' accounts into new developer accounts opened up using stolen identities. Then, when they decided it was go time, Wilkins Dev would push the update to the Steam store with malware, like the StealC info stealer, encrypted into the update package. StealC doesn't just steal passwords, it instantly steals seed phrases, crypto wallets, and session tokens from the victim's web browsers and other software. Those stolen session tokens allowed Wilkins to access accounts without needing credentials and without needing MFA prompts. Because if you have that token, you now have an active session. It basically means you're already logged in. You don't need to log in because the victim already logged in and now you're them. And you took over their existing session. And InfoStealer doesn't look like anything when you get hit. It's nothing like TV. It's not like ransomware. There's no message that says, you've been jugged. You won't even know what happens at the moment unless your antivirus software alerts on it. The infected game can even run like normal alongside the invisible attack, but the attackers quickly take over all of those wallets and accounts that are on that computer while you're playing the game. Check out our InfoStealer Economy episode for a breakdown of that world. They were actually doing reconnaissance to find targets who discussed crypto on social media and reach out to those people to push the game. They took a variety of different approaches to promote these games. They even posted fake job ads across different platforms saying they were hiring moderators for the community, and the job applicant was required to install the game. Let's look at a timeline of the malicious games. Dashverse, weaponized August 2024. Lunera, November 2024. PirateFi, weaponized January 2025. BlockBlasters, weaponized August 2025. Lampy, weaponized January 2026. This was an attack that lasted well over a year. Whenever word got out that a game was infected with malware, they would just grab new stolen identities, new accounts, and start the same con over again with a new game. Dashverse, Lunera, PirateFi, BlockBlasters, Lampy, there's probably others. By the time the FBI started tracking the infrastructure, the conspirators had successfully infected at least 8,000 computers to gain unauthorized access to approximately 80 different cryptocurrency wallets. And from those wallets, they drained at least $220,000 worth of cryptocurrency.
And they didn't just stop at the wallets. At least one player states they took his payment card data saved in his browser, his stored credentials, and then used his personal information for extortion.
So you can't necessarily see anything particularly interesting when malware runs, but we can step through and see what it's really doing. So it defines paths for encrypted archives, v3 and v4, and a destination directory, CW. It checks the registry to see Steam path, where Steam is installed on that computer. And then it creates a new path with this Steam path spelled with a 1 instead of an L variable. Now, what it does here is clever. This open files to null. It doesn't really matter the actual value of open files, but what's important is that the command open files requires admin to run. So if it succeeds, if there's no error, the script knows that it's running as admin, so it can take more actions.
Checking for admin rights with a dummy open files command, that's a slick bit of living off the land. If it succeeds, they know they have the keys to the kingdom to quietly silence Defender before dropping the StealC payload.
If it's running as admin, what it's doing here at the PowerShell is creating an exclusion in Windows Defender for the staging directory. So Windows Defender won't alert on the malicious files that are going to be placed there. Then it extracts v3 with the hard-coded password, the 121 password. Even though it's a simple password, any sort of password encoded archive generally isn't going to be scanned by antivirus. So they're moving malicious files from the encrypted archive into the excluded directory. So at neither point is antivirus going to pick up on the virus. Next, it launches a payload client built2.exe and then block1.exe. Now, block1 is the StealC malware. StealC is a common, well-established info stealer sold as a subscription that's going to steal active session tokens, credentials, payment cards, text files, all in seconds and then deletes itself. Client built. Let's check that out really quick. Execute it in the sandbox. Makes a connection out to command and control infrastructure. Looks like it's built in Python. So likely a Python-based backdoor to complement the info stealer. And achieve persistent access to the machine. After the timeout, it launches megaactionplatformer.exe. Megaactionplatformer.exe. It requires DirectX to run. That's not installed in the sandbox, so it's not going to run. But DirectX is a set of APIs usually used for video games. That probably really is a platformer video game. That way the victim doesn't become suspicious because they're expecting a video game to run, and a game does in fact run while it's taking control of your computer, exfiltrating your data. Now if the script fails, if there's an error with the open files command, the script knows that it doesn't have admin privileges. It falls back to the launch section. It checks for the Steam prerequisites.exe to see if it already exists. And if it doesn't exist, it extracts payload from v4, the other encrypted archive, into the Steam directory. And then it launches Steam prerequisites.exe. Runs this wait loop, uses task, kill, and find to find Steam running and stop that process. It keeps looping through until it stops all Steam processes. This block actually causes the execution of the particular Steam app ID. That's the ID for BlockBlasters. It's using curl to upload randomly named text files to the command and control server. If execution fails, it tries to launch Steam prerequisites.exe again. Finally, the end of this script, the end block, wraps it up. It checks ipfi.org. That's a public service that returns the external IP address. Remember that an internal process in the computer doesn't necessarily know the external IP address because it's NATed through the victim's router typically. So that learns the external IP address. It bundles that IP address, computer name, and a launched message, writes it to a text file, uploads it to the C2 server using curl, so that the server knows that computer is now a zombie. September 2025, they famously hit Revo Plavniks, better known as RastalandTV. He was a Latvian streamer battling a rare form of cancer who was live streaming to raise money for his treatment. They targeted his chat, convinced him to download BlockBlasters, said they would make a donation if he showed the game on his stream. And while he was live on stream, they drained tens of thousands of dollars from his crypto wallet. They took everything he had, everything he raised for his treatment. This caused massive justified outrage across the internet. The internet wanted blood, and when the internet gets angry, they start witch hunts. The mob very quickly decided they had found their guy, an Argentinian influencer named Valentin Lopez. The rumor mill went into overdrive. If you look at social media from that week, people were absolutely convinced Valentin was the mastermind and published articles saying that he had been arrested even. Now, did he have some kind of connection to sketchy dealings? I don't know. But I'm not finding anything that lines up. Maybe the real bad guys started that rumor themselves. Maybe they planted a false flag in their software that pointed to Valentin. Maybe not. But it would have been a clever move. Seeing the bloodthirsty mob confidently pick the wrong guy to focus their attention on, though, probably looked like a green light to Wilkins and his developer. Because instead of laying low after robbing a dying cancer patient, they decided to escalate. They started discussing how to deploy malicious crypto contracts in spear phishing attacks to drain wallets directly without malware, and how to level up their malware campaigns on Steam. November 20th, 2025, the two exchanged encrypted messages on Signal, where Wilkins offered to invest $10,000 for a new remote access Trojan, or RAT, to step up their capabilities. Info stealers like StealC are quick, efficient, pre-configured smash and grab attacks that exfiltrate what the operator expects is the most valuable data on the victim's computer, that typically execute once and then immediately delete themselves to hide their tracks. On the other hand, RATs allow ongoing, persistent, full control of that machine, including the ability to watch the screen and camera in real time. They enable a much wider range of attacks and fraud. Wilkins explicitly stated that he would handle crypting the malware. Crypting is obfuscating the stub, the initial stage of the malware, to bypass security filters. Proficient cybercrime groups, some of them crypt their malware multiple times per day, so at any given moment their latest hash doesn't come up as malicious in databases like VirusTotal. Once Wilkins put up the cache, the developer would get that RAT embedded into a game on the Steam store. Because all the public pressure that had built, the FBI was already on the dev's trail. Now here is what they did. The developer could use all the fake names he wants on the Steam store, but he had to use an email address he could actually verify in order to upload anything. If you watch Behind the Surface, our previous episodes, you know that cybercriminals don't have a work laptop and a personal laptop. They always combine the two, always. And the FBI loves that. They know exactly how to go after that. The dev was making new Gmail accounts to go with the fake names on the new Steam accounts, but logging into them all from the same browser, and as the same browser as their real name accounts, their personal accounts. The same browser cookie. So the feds ordered Google to list all accounts associated with that same cookie.
We've got the subscriber records lined up.
That's called a 2703D order.
Once it's logged, we'll transmit through the provider compliance portal. Should be back in a week.
Makes sense.
They take those email addresses and order Apple to hand over the billing information for any Apple IDs associated with those email addresses. They take that billing information and order T-Mobile to hand over telephone accounts that match that billing information. It all overlaps more or less. They take all of that information and order Coinbase to hand over accounts that overlap with that. All of these accounts line up, and the billing addresses, same names on the accounts, phone numbers, they're all the same person in Seattle. So the feds went to that address and went inside, found fake IDs that matched the Steam accounts, passwords that matched that were just plain text, and the malware. Oh, and the dev, they found him. And he flipped sides and handed everything over to the FBI, everything he knew about Wilkins, which wasn't a lie. He didn't know Wilkins' real identity, but it was everything they needed to pivot. Wilkins and the dev often discussed Bitcoin addresses, wallets, transactions. Wilkins had been sending his stolen Bitcoin to a BitRefill account. BitRefill sells all major brands of gift cards, and the feds ordered BitRefill to give them everything on that account. They ordered Google to provide other accounts linked to the email address on the BitRefill account by cookies. Do you see a pattern here? You should. Go read 1,000 FBI affidavits and you'll definitely see the pattern. The bad guys in these type of cases mostly make all the same mistakes, so the feds mostly follow the same playbook. Anyway, the FBI then had those email addresses and also an Uber Eats account funded by BitRefill. They ordered Uber Eats to hand over that account everything they knew and found a T-Mobile phone number. So what did they do? Any guesses? Ordered T-Mobile to hand over everything on that account with that phone number, hand over all the records for that account. Once again, all of this information from these different accounts was overlapping a lot and pointing in one direction. A direction, an identity that ordered over 500 food deliveries with the stolen Bitcoin.
Oh, let me get this straight. You crypt your payloads twice a day to beat the virus total hashes, but you order your midnight tacos on that same blockchain. That's not an advanced persistent threat. That's just advanced persistent appetite.
Was he ordering food for friends? For an army? No, here's the thing. The delivery addresses on the Uber Eats orders matched the location of that T-Mobile cell phone. The same cell phone on that Uber Eats account, the same cell phone used as a recovery number on the Gmail accounts, the same cell phone used for a Snapchat account with Wilkins' real name as the display name. All of these accounts lined up and matched.
There are three things the Fed love, and one is tracking cell phones.
Except that T-Mobile account was actually under his mother's name. He was stealing thousands and thousands of dollars from dying cancer patients while making his mama pay his bills. So they got a search warrant for the address and knocked the door down. Feds love three things, and one of them is knocking doors down.
No, they made announcements and tried to get him to come outside and talk.
This is the FBI. Come out of the residence.
That's the preferred approach. When you take the door, you never know what you're gonna get.
The agents waited outside for an hour announcing their intent and their warrant over loudspeakers with no response. So they called in the SWAT team to plan the next steps, and they made announcements for an hour. They started towing the vehicles from the house to prepare for a raid, and getting their cars towed is what finally inspired everyone to come outside. It turns out Wilkins spent those hours wiping his hard drives, but he couldn't bear to part with his loot. The search found Wilkins' cryptocurrency seed phrases. A seed phrase is a sequence of 12 or 24 words that can be used to calculate a private key of a crypto wallet. A private key itself looks like a whole bunch of random characters that's hard to memorize, but 12 words, you can remember that or write it down in your room and hope the feds don't look there when they're searching your place. When you have that seed phrase, you can calculate the private key, and now you have absolute control over the wallet. You have the wallet. You don't need the password, you don't need their phone, you don't need a hardware wallet if you have that key derived from the seed phrase. You just type that seed phrase into any crypto app on any device in the world. It calculates the private key and you have the wallet. Here's what that looks like.
I can't believe you just entered your seed phrase on a website. You're doing that attacker's job for them.
Oh, there's no balance. This was just to demonstrate the mathematical concept. But this is something I need to make really clear because I don't want to give the impression that these kind of sites are safe. Every site that has a place to enter your seed phrase is a scam. Don't ever enter a real seed phrase online or say one over the phone, no matter what the story they give is. Yeah, these sites do the math correctly and show the private key and all that, but if there's a balance in the wallet, you'll also send the private key to the site admin so they can drain it. Let's take a look at the network traffic. They set a debug checkpoint on an anonymous function just to mess with us. That always means a site is malicious. They love to do that. That's here in the user interface JavaScript. Here, app of JavaScript. I mean, it is obfuscated, but I can see a lot of keywords despite that. Found wallets. So if it finds wallets, it runs some encryption algorithms. This is after finding the wallets. So at this point, the site's legitimate job is done. But it runs some additional encryption and opens a WebSocket back to the server.
That's to exfiltrate your secret key and drain your wallet.
Not only do you have control of any crypto in the wallet, but you now have the past transactions because you can see the wallet on the blockchain. The feds found transactions that matched the conversation Wilkins had with his developer.
There are 3 things the feds love, and one is tracking a flow of money.
The developer's intel checked out, all the data lined up, they took it all to a judge and alleged that Wilkins was the mastermind to get an arrest warrant. It was already Friday though, and you know how it is, but first thing the next week,
Behind the surface, follow the chain from initial access to lasting pain. With protective lock, the signal's clear. Breaking it down logically here. Useless injection.